Carl, so I had a question. I was going to put it in the Slack channel, but I thought that maybe we could put it on the show here or something at some point. But I was just asked by a client if we could block off 4 or 5 hours so that we can sit in a room with them and they can tell us what they want done and we can just do it while they sit there. Have you heard of that before?
It's called Avada, VADA, Avada.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a voice-activated design application.
Yeah.
And we used to have companies at the agency that said Nevada. So, yeah, you know what you tell them, Gene?
I was nicer than that. I already responded.
This is my fade back for you to cut the recording. And we're back. I hope I don't have a hole in my pants.
No, you didn't. Nice. Nice. Yeah, so that was my instinct too.
Yeah, don't do that.
What is on the agenda, my friend? You're not home.
No, I am in Palm Springs, California at the Ace Hotel and Swim Club.
Wasn't it nice to be Carl Smith?
It does not. I'll tell you that. We're here for the second Owner Camp Palm Springs. We had Owner Camp Palm Springs 1, which was in December. And we had a wait list of over 20 people. So we said, hey, let's do a second one.
Let's do a second one.
Here we are. And I will say it's been really nice. It's just something about getting together, you know, and we're making, everybody's sharing their Vax cards. Everybody's being really smart. You know, it is one of those things where you find yourself with a group of people. And then as soon as you walk away from those people, you're like, mask up. But who knows if the virus is paying attention or not? We'll find out. But no, it's just so great to be here. And Gene, one of the craziest parts is in December, we're having all these conversations. And a lot of those conversations were really heavily around accountability. One of the struggles that a lot of shops were having, owners specifically, was how do I hold somebody accountable without them just leaving to take that other job in the big place?
Well,
and it was like, you know, blackmail, find something out about their family. I don't know. But
guns,
it was one of those things, man, right? What's interesting this time around, the two biggest topics so far, we're just going into the second day, are one, how do I step back as an owner? I think everybody's like, you know, it's been a long 2 years. I'm thinking
I need to get out of this.
Kind of step back. And on top of that, pricing increases because you're going to have to pay that CEO and you still want to get paid.
Yeah, you still
be able to afford the 30% increase in talent. You have to be able to do all this stuff. So I thought it'd be a great episode for us today as I'm kind of in the thick of it. Just to kind of talk about, you know, raising your prices. One of the things that's amazing to me, and, you know, I mean, most people know this that are listening to the show because you run a shop or you're in a shop. And I mean, the cost of talent has just gone through the roof. The cost of every role has pretty much increased, and people use 30%. You know, that's just something we've kind of adopted, and we just say now, right?
Okay.
Well, you know, it's gone up 30%. I'm sure there's some level of research or something, or maybe it's just personal experience. People
now it's accepted.
But with very few exceptions, only occasionally do people talk about raising rates. And this has been going on for well over a year now. The only way to be able to afford to be in this space now is you have to raise your rates. Or you're going to have to really rethink what it is your company does and add enough value to it. But account management was another one that was really big. Yesterday, it was like, we were having this conversation. It was going great. But then account management came in and it was like somebody threw gas on a fire. It was just like the whole room was like, everybody was just ready to go. So growing the clients you have versus, you know, chasing new logos. And so to do that, when you think about increasing your prices with the same clients, you have to ask yourself, it's
harder to do.
How is this going to go?
So what are some of the stories you've heard? How are people doing it? Or what are some of the strategies that they're throwing out there for approaching it?
Well, I think, and obviously I have to maintain the confidentiality. So
we need names.
who said what. Okay, it was me. I did it. Um, but I think the thing that I heard yesterday that made the most sense to me was right now, every client is surrounded with the same news that you are surrounded with. The great resignation, the great realization,
Right.
people aren't taking the jobs they used to take. There's a huge increase in cost to have the best talent or even talent, right? And so now is the time where you really better do it because a year from now, if that conversation isn't happening,
Right.
those clients
late.
aren't primed to expect it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't know this answer, but it doesn't feel like it's a net 30% increase in your rate to cover a 30% increase. I'm not the best at financial stuff, but it seems like you're going to have to increase it more because you also have to expect that this isn't over.
Right.
And you can raise rates once, but it's a lot like a layoff. When you have the second one,
They're like, what are you not doing right?
wait a minute.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on. I'm out of here. So yeah, that to me was really interesting. I also had a great conversation last night. We had a little happy hour, and I was talking with one of the owners, and we just this realization that if you double your rate and lose half your clients, you're making the same money. So realize, you're still going to have clients that you lose, and that's
Right.
okay.
What?
Because it's going to take less time to make the same money.
Yeah. That's a strong thought. That's because you assume everything's going to stay the same in terms of everything else except the rate increase. The math doesn't always work out that way.
No, but you've got to expect that you're going to lose some people.
So have there been any, I'm curious, any discussions about growth and raising rates? So you know what I mean? Like in the gym industry, there's this thing where it's like 150 members can be more profitable than 250 members because the infrastructure you have to have, more coaches, more space, more equipment, doesn't really work out. The math doesn't really work out in the end as your 150 when you already have all the stuff you need. Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the growth and the raising rates at the same time.
So the growth conversation actually is on the agenda for today.
Okay.
And so we'll see. We'll come back to that one.
Part 2 next week.
Part 2, 4.
That's part 4.
Peace, everyone. But I'll say that a lot of the shops, some of the conversation is around, so shops that are smaller, I'll say that this group, the smallest shop, I think, is right around 11. That includes contractors who are pretty permanent in there. And the largest is over 300.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the breadth of what we have.
It's a big scale.
Yeah. And the shops that were in that kind of 10 to 15 range, a lot of them doubled in size.
Wow.
Right? A lot of them went to 20, went to 25.
Like over the course of the past 2 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Some of them just last year.
Okay.
But they went from like 10 to 20. And so that's a huge shift because now you're like going, oh, we need a project manager, or we need an operations person, or we need somebody who can help us get the work to flow through, whatever it might be. The larger shops, it didn't feel like that was the same. And it's interesting too, because you start looking at turnover, right? And retention is a huge problem for everybody. But there are a couple of firms that don't have that problem. And what I found that's really interesting, again, without giving away any of the confidentiality, the firms that aren't having any problem, like I'm not saying they're positioned into a certain niche, but they have a certain focus on their service that I think makes them extremely attractive to their employees. Because it's just different enough that you're not going to find another place that's doing that thing. And I know I'm talking really vague here, but
no, it makes sense. I mean, let's say, man, I don't know. Let's use an example. I'm just making this shit up, but like somebody who specializes in building sites on Shopify, right? Like,
it could be, yeah. I mean,
because I've thought about that.
Focuses exclusively on logo design, or
Right. Whatever it is.
exclusively on, and you're not going to be asked to do other things, and that's your passion.
Yeah.
Or like a writer who's exclusively asked to work on pitch decks,
Right.
right? Or something that they just love because they get the new. And so I think there's something there.
Yeah.
But when we start talking about raising rates, I think that's the other thing is, and positioning is always a big topic. David Baker came up a few times. David C. Baker came up a few times. I'm so pretentious when I say that. I'm sorry, David, if you ever listen to this. The C is because I can. But he, a lot of his positioning and the conversation gets to how tight do you position? And I think one of the things that came out of that, because the tighter you're positioned, the more people resonate with you, the more people feel that they are going to get what they need, right? And to explain this a little bit, so one of the shops that was there, that is here, basically they position themselves to a time in the life cycle of a client, right?
Oh, yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So when you show up and see their site, what you're seeing is, hey, if you're transitioning into a new type of company, if your brand doesn't fit anymore, if you need to get all of your web operations moving in the same direction, but you're not sure where you're going, that's when you contact us. And
That's
the way
I'm sorry.
No, the way that they do it, I think, builds trust immediately, because they're not talking about Drupal, or they're not talking about Shopify, or they're not talking about a product, or they're not talking about
Right.
themselves. We got in this to build the best, right?
Right.
Or their way. That's the other thing. If you think about it back, I remember
Yep.
when I was at the advertising agency, there was the HJ way. At Engine, we had the Engine way. Happy Cog had the Happy Cog way. Everybody had and put way at the end of their name, and it made them cool.
It's like all the same shit. Yeah.
The reality is we need to focus on the client's way. And I think that is what this shop's done, which has allowed them to stay relatively small, but charge a lot.
It's awesome.
Because people see it and they're like, that's what we need. We didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
And so to me, that makes raising your rates easy, if you can get there.
Yeah, that's brilliant though. I mean, we do that. Sorry, it's like all I do is run the gym. I mean, I still do other things, but it's just like it's so fun. So it's sort of like the fun project that I got going on. But we do the same thing. So we just recently went through a whole exercise where we identified the types of avatars, not the big blue ones, but the types of people in our area who would be looking for our services. And we identified people that they're not necessarily brand new, but they're transitioning from like a Planet Fitness to something. Like they're transitioning into being coached. That was one of the main ones, right? And then someone who's looking to, it's the same shit, but looking to change their type. So it's sort of the same thing. And it's funny how we probably coach all of our clients to do this stuff all the time, but we don't do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's like if we would just like take our own advice and like take a second and like lay all our clients on the table and look at like what are all the things that we do for all of our clients, we could probably figure out a niche that we fall into.
Yeah. Or how they see you, right? Like why did you show up? We talk about this all the time for our clients. We rarely do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
But how did you find us? Why did you say yes to us?
Yeah.
What was that? And what was it that made you feel comfortable? Because I can imagine if I was running a gym and I wanted to specialize, you could have that getting my life back together class where you're going to show up and not worry that everybody is a 14% body fat.
Right.
You're walking in there like, hey, everybody.
Because that's the thing. And people, they want to be around like-minded people. People want to be around people that are doing the same things they are, or thinking the same way, or live the same way.
Path to a place they want to get to.
I think clients in our industry are the same way. I know, like we have a client that's in the airport, and they were like, it was when we went in to bid on it, it was us and 3 other companies that specialize in websites for airports. Mm-hmm. Which I was like, we beat you. But like, there are companies that only do websites for airports.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, that seems like a niche that's going to run out of clients after a while.
Yeah.
But not.
but here's the thing. It's like, how many airports are there?
There's
And
a
once
bunch
you,
of them.
they aren't in competition with each other really.
Nope.
So you don't have the footprint issue. And by the
That's right.
time you get done with 10, that first one probably needs help again.
That's right.
I mean, that's the thing about another shop here who's positioned themselves or is positioning themselves. They don't do websites. They do web ops.
Ooh,
So
what is web ops?
so web ops, you basically hand over your entire web operation to them. So they're going
Oh,
to manage every aspect of what your online presence is, right? Which a
wow.
lot of people would say, well, it's really a website and setting up hosting.
Mm,
No, it's a lot of back office stuff. It's a lot
yeah.
of there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Especially if you
And
conduct
if you want
business
to
off
keep
of your
your hands off
website.
this, yeah, if you want to keep your hands off this,
Hmm.
we'll handle it for you. Um, just, I think getting back to the pricing thing again, one of the things that is always a challenge, and this is something we were also talking about yesterday, is legacy clients. And so
Mm,
a lot of people haven't raised their rates in 10 years, right? And it's
I
just
haven't.
it's just one of those things, right? It's like it doesn't make sense because every other industry raises their rates when inflation hits,
Well,
does
and
all
all your damn employees probably got raises.
that.
I
Yeah,
mean, let's just look at
right.
the basic numbers. Like, what the hell?
But if we look at legacy clients, I think legacy clients are a lot of the reasons why we honor those old rates. And we feel this loyalty to them, although we start to get frustrated with them and we start to not like them for none of their own, no reason, nothing they did. They were just, we never told them we started charging more or that we didn't do that type of work anymore. But they were there for us. They like lifted us
Yeah.
up to a certain point and we
Yeah.
feel responsible because most people running shops are nice people and they avoid confrontation. Um, and they don't want to talk to them. So I was sharing that one of the things we did when we were leaving Expression Engine at Engine was we contacted every shop that we knew and respected that did it, and that we thought might be a fit for this because we were kind of going on to doing other things,
Mm,
and then had conversations with those clients and said, "Hey, love you. This isn't something we're doing anymore. We're not going to invest in it anymore. You need somebody who is. These are some of the people we've met." Out of the 5 clients, one got really mad. The rest were thankful that we had thought about them, and one of them said, "We're fine to pay the additional money." Right? Like our rates had gone from 125 up to like 185,
that's not
and we
it.
never told them.
Yeah.
We just kept charging them what we'd always charged them. And it's like, and I know a lot of shops do that, and they end up with these different rates for different clients. And then what happens? You get a big project with a client who doesn't pay much.
Yeah.
But they become the asshole. They
Yeah.
didn't do it.
Yep. You just let it sit there. That's important. So is that something that you can talk about early on when you're sort of in that contract phase? I know there's a lot of discussion in Slack and stuff about contracts and structure. Is that something you're like, here's the deal. We'll probably revisit this at a certain amount of time. Rates will probably go up. Just prepare for it, whatever. It's something to know. I
Yeah.
mean, is that something you think you should do early?
I think it's a great idea. Like,
I don't know.
I think you could even sign clients. This is really Gene done something intelligent. I'm proud. I'm proud of you, man. Okay, so I think,
Signing off.
and I'm out. Costanza. Um,
You got to leave on a high note.
but I think that would be an interesting thing in a contract. What if you said, if you want to sign a 3-year agreement, we'll lock you into these rates. Otherwise, you can anticipate rates going up anywhere from 3 to 5% a year. Right? If you establish that early on and give them a way to lock in,
That's a solid way to sell it.
I think that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
just say, look, we're always going to be going after the best talent. We're always going to be going after the best methods and processes. And to do that, it's going to always cost more over time.
Right.
So this is your option to lock in and know
And
the rate.
yeah, and depending on the size of the business that you're doing business with, they probably understand that on an operational level.
Right.
Right. I mean, if you're doing business with Fortune 500 or even the whatever the next level below that is, I don't even know. But like, they're going to know like operational costs are part of our equation. So it's
Right.
going to be part of this equation.
Yeah. If the parts that make up the product that you sell, if those individual parts go up, if chips suddenly go up, obviously electronics, the cost goes up.
Right.
We don't question it.
Right. We know that.
If we know that the cost of talent, which is,
Mhm.
part of what we have to put together the different products we create, is going up,
Yeah.
the only reason I think clients get upset is because they don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Or
Or you've got extremely price sensitive clients, which is also definitely a whole nother genre of,
yeah.
And I think that's a big, like when you're getting started, you take everything you can.
Yeah. Or when you get desperate. Yeah.
Your fourth or fifth year, you should be able to be a little more selective if you've done good work and kept your word.
Right.
Stuff.
In
Yeah.
theory. Depends on your industry.
Or you take on one that will be a great portfolio piece. Right.
Oh man.
Those were we would always say, look, we're going to do this. Please don't tell anybody that we charged you this because it's way under rate. You get to give us some feedback, but pretty much we're going to drive this from a decision-making process because it's got to work for us.
Yeah. Well.
And sometimes they say yes.
Yeah.
And then it would never go well.
No, it never does.
The thing where we said you weren't really going to have a voice in this.
Yeah, you
missed that.
Yeah. Why do you keep talking?
Yeah. I'm going to block you on this phone. Okay.
That would be nice. What else we got, man? What else you left with? You just been hitting the pricing thing?
I mean, the pricing, the accountability, the growth, all of these things are still a challenge. But I think the most interesting thing that's going on is everybody talking about stepping back. Like we have some people that have just taken over their shops. They've either been promoted from within or they bought the company. And they obviously want to get in the weeds. They want to understand the inner workings and all that. But for the most part, everybody's just looking to kind of, how can I, and I think this is where the pricing and accountability and everything comes in. It's like, how can I get this to a point where I can step back? And, I think just kind of ending this, the question of sabbaticals, and I say the question of, that's interesting because one person talked about a 4-week sabbatical and somebody else was like, I think it's got to be a year, right? 4 weeks is a vacation.
Yeah,
and to me, being like 2 weeks in the middle of this, like probably 4-week absence from the Bureau, he says running an event. So I guess I'm not really absent, but it feels like a long time and it's super quiet. And I think for those of us with entrepreneurial or creative brains,
that worries you.
It can be really tough unless we find another passion. And that was something one person had mentioned, that they pretty much, they were taking mornings off and they were painting. They had gotten back to doing creative projects and things that they did, and it made them feel so much better the rest of the day. So, I mean, that's another thing to me. It's like, stepping back doesn't have to necessarily mean just your role, right? It could be the amount of time that you're doing it. Yeah. And if you don't have as much time by default, you have to have other people pick up some of the load that you were doing. I think another thing I heard that was really interesting was one person had redefined their role where they would no longer take anything outside of the company in terms of meetings or calls. So they would only meet with the team. Or I guess with people who were maybe external services like financial or marketing, but they would have no client contact, nothing like that. I thought that's an interesting way.
That's one way to do it.
Cut it.
Well, everybody's going to have their own unique thing that causes them that stress and anxiety in the business. I mean, aside from, making payroll, but like you're going to have that one thing and it could be like meeting with the goddamn clients. That's not my problem. But but I mean, it could be like, I don't like, the financial aspect of it. So maybe you need to bring somebody in.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I know we're coming close to time here and my leg's falling asleep. I'm positioning in this weird angle just so you can have a great view. I did it for you.
Thank you.
I think you wrap it up. The real hot take, and I think this is a variation on a hot take from before, is for us to move forward, these things have to change, right? And a lot of people are saying, all of the clients are starting to hire in-house and all this. Well, they can't afford the increase either. Right. they're all having to find different ways to do it. I think it gets back to, we have to redefine what we want out of running our shops. We have to rebuild our shops to a degree, or reposition them, not in the marketing sense, but in the internal working sense, to whatever the new output is going to be. And we have to give people a reason to want to be there. I got in the poaching conversation again yesterday, and I'm not in the heat of this, so I don't really understand it. But I think there's a real emphasis that positioning isn't just to get hired by clients. It's, if you do it correctly and it becomes part of the mission and vision, right, and core values, then it becomes a way for employees to know, this is a place I want to stay. And I think a lot of the onus is on building a place people want to be. And I don't think money is necessarily the main driver. It's back to Daniel Pink, right? Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. They want to know that they're being treated fairly and compensated fairly. But if it feels like something's a hassle, then it's easy for them to jump right now.
Mm-hmm. And you're talking about people at higher end salary ranges, the 100 plus.
For a lot of them,
So
some of
all things equal, much more. But all things equal, they are going to be concerned with those things, and not necessarily just getting the paycheck. Like someone at a $30,000, $40,000 level they're just happy to have work. But like somebody at that level, they're like, everything's got the moon has to align with the sun, bro. Like, you got to make this happen.
And let's think about this. So account management, the reason it's a hot topic is to make sure that we're maximizing and growing relationships and workload from different clients. Like, how do we maximize the value of that relationship? We don't really have account management for the team.
No.
Some people have, director of humans or whatever they might, but most of, and a director of culture. Like, I think those roles are probably more important than ever. And smaller shops aren't going to be, I mean, that's going to have to be the founder who does it. So you're not going to be stepping back, but I think that's just a big part of it, is making sure that everybody feels like they have a voice and they're going somewhere.
Yeah.
That they want to go.
Yeah.
Not like me going to hell.
All right.
All right, Gene, next time I see you, I will be back in lovely Jacksonville, Florida.
Sweet.
But for now, I'm out here in the paradise that is the desert.
That picture you sent me was pretty sweet.
It's pretty great. Later.